Wonderful. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the fact that when Ashwin spoke about Rosa Ball Line and how it grew, how he kind of marketed it. One of the things that I don't want to steal his thunder, but I'd like him to tell you about it, is what did you do at Crossword?
You're going to make me tell that story.
Exactly. And I hope there's someone from Crossword who's out here.
No, it's okay. We all know the story. 2008, my book gets published in India by Westland, and I start doing the rounds of bookstores in order to find where my book is. I find that I walk into the Kent's Corner Crossword, and I ask the guy, because my book isn't visible anywhere. So I asked the store clerk, I say, listen, I'm told that there is this fantabulous new story which has come out by this young upcoming writer called Ashwin Sanghi. So would you have his book? So he looks into the computer and he says, yes sir, we have 3 copies. I said, where are they? So he gives me a set of directions which is almost like a GPS navigation. Go here, go there, go there. Anyway, I go there. And it's in one corner, and the books, there are 3 copies, but the 3 copies are very dusty. So I take out my kerchief and I wipe them up and lovingly clean them up. And then I take all the 3 copies of the books and I bring them right to the front of the store and I put them on the bestseller rack. And I said, now I'm a bestseller. Now, there is a backstory to this story, because it's very important to know that. When I just got published, I started doing the rounds of bookstores along with a young salesman from Westland. And I said, take me to the bookstores, and I want to meet the managers, and I want to meet the store clerks wherever possible. And so we did about, I think, maybe 12 or 13 stores. And then I asked him why we were sitting in the car together. I said, ultimately, what is it? So he said, साहब एक चीज याद रखिए, जो दिखता है, वो बिकता है. And that fundamental golden rule, that what is visible is what sells. And visible, and not only, it has to be first condition that it should be available, and second condition that it should be visible. So that is something which then over the years is something which I never forgot. Even when I go to another city, and if I have 3 hours to kill, I will find a bookstore where I can go. Now of course it's become more difficult because they recognize me. But earlier I used to walk in and I would introduce myself. Because that's very, very critical. Most young writers think that their job is over after they have written and after they have signed a contract and got published. But that's when your work is starting. That's really when your work is starting. Because frankly, I think it was Hemingway who said, write when you're drunk and edit when you're sober. And I would like to add a couple of lines to that. Write when you're drunk, edit when you're sober, start marketing the next morning. That's the hangover. Because you realize what a pain it is.
Yeah, so in fact, I think I have 2 questions for Ashwin before I'm going to throw it open to all of you. One, you have been described at different points in time as the Dan Brown of India, the Jeffrey Archer of India, India's Jeffrey Archer. These are all labels that typically media puts, they just want to put a label onto you so that you're easily identifiable and bracketed.
Absolutely.
I will also go into the criticism a bit about how, we'll get there. But before that, what does it mean? I think for a lot of young authors,
yes,
there's this, I am India's Stephen King,
yes,
I am India's so-and-so.
Yes.
It's a sense of gratification,
yes,
validation.
Yeah.
But do you also think that at some level it does a great injustice to who you are and what you are trying to do as an author?
Frankly, I must tell you, Shatrujit, for me that Dan Brown label occurred because of the Rosa Ball Line. Because at that time, the Da Vinci Code had happened, and any book that was remotely connected to Mary Magdalene was automatically treated as an offshoot of Dan Brown's writing. So that label came on, And at that time, I must tell you, and even later on, I was flattered by it. I said, my God, here's a guy who has sold a few 100 million copies. Big deal, no problem. The comparison is great. But I think it was a misplaced comparison, because to a very great extent, if you read the Da Vinci Code and if you read the Roosevelt line, you will find that they are dramatically different books. In fact, I wasn't even trying to write a commercial thriller. When the Roosevelt line, when I had visited Roosevelt, and for 1 year I was researching, and I ended up reading more than 40-50 books on various topics related to that. I had started writing a thesis to connect all the dots, all the various dots in the various stories that I had come across. And I gave the 40-page document to my wife to read, and I said, Anu, will you read it and tell me how it sounds? The next morning, my wife told me, congratulations. So I was very happy. So she said, congratulations, because you discovered the cure for insomnia. Because I was asleep after 2 pages. So it's a great drug, it's a miracle drug. So she said, you need to figure out a way that it will become interesting. And so I just simply wanted to make that into a story. There was no desire to try and make that into a commercial thriller. But that comparison happened. And so to a very great extent, I would say this, that if these comparisons happen, accept it gracefully, right? But at the end of the day, when you think about it, hopefully aim for a day when there is someone in the US who is called America's Ashwin Sandhi. If you are working towards that, then maybe one fine day it might happen.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. Basically, just one last question. You've written so many mysteries. We went through the entire, political history, all of that. Are you ever going to write a literary mystery? We are in the book world. There's actually no, but there's actually.
I'm so far removed from the literary world. I know it sounds like.
Okay. Let me rephrase. Publishing mystery. The only real mystery in the publishing space, to my mind, is that where are all the royalty checks? I think that's the only real mystery that we have. But would you ever want to do something like that?
Yeah.
It's something that's very.
There's the old joke which says that writers can write books faster than publishers can write checks. So that's really where the problem is. But nevertheless, I would say that from my perspective, I feel that there is a huge distinction between writing and storytelling. Writing is about words. Choosing the right words, spinning them into beautiful fabric, into tapestry, into sentences, which almost have a lyrical quality about them. And one can appreciate the sentence purely for the sentence, not necessarily the story that it conveys. On the other hand, as far as I'm concerned, I'm all about the story. So, I remember when my initially first couple of books, my editor would take my manuscript and would say, Ashwin, everywhere you say he said, she said, he said, she said. So she would change it, he observed, she remarked, he thought, he commented. And it would come back to me, and I would again change it back to he said, she said, he said, she said. And my editor would say, what are you doing? I said, because the said is unimportant. The said is not really where the action is, it's what is within those inverted commas that is being conveyed. And that's the story. So, I don't see myself ever being able to have the patience to sit and write a literary novel.
Okay.
I don't see that.
Okay, fair. Thanks a lot, Ashwin. Even this decided to shut up.
Yeah.
Or rather shut me up, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be throwing the floor open for questions. You can ask Ashwin virtually anything you want to ask him about his books. Oh, there are lots of questions already. Here you go.
Whoever has mic, please go.
There's one next to you, Ashwin.
Yeah, we can pass that on.
And once it's done, I pass it.
Yeah, okay, fine. Sure.
May I?
Yes, please.
So thanks for the revelations. I'm not asking a question, I just want to say something. I became an author at the age of 61. First book out last year.
Congratulations to you,
At the age
sir.
of 61, I started after 60. First book out 61, but then got stuck. I'm currently doing 3 books, all at different stages of being stuck. So what are the words?
Join the Writers Club.
So what are the words you just used? Pretty damn something? What was that?
Bloody good luck.
Pretty good luck. So I'm very good and happy that I heard you today. You cleared a lot of cobwebs that was where I know the way forward now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And I really wish you bloody good luck with your endeavor. Yes,
Have any of your books been sold for movies, web series, anything like that?
currently, I must tell you, the first book that I contracted for was Chanakya's Chant, where the story was picked up for a movie by UTV Disney.
Okay.
And then a year, an option is always a year or 18 months. So it was a 1-year option. And then they came back to me and they said, listen, we've not been able to work on a script which we think will have which will commercially work. So we want to extend the option. So I said, be my guest, because I get paid an option fee all over again. So there was a 2nd-year option, and then there was a 3rd-year option. But it never ended up eventually getting made. The Krishna Key has been optioned about a 1.5 years ago. Again, same situation. It's been optioned for a year, and now being optioned for another year to Eros Entertainment. And the Sialkot Saga has been optioned for a digital series just about 6 months ago. So what I must tell you is I've become an expert at option agreements, but not that much of an expert in making movies. I was a little dejected about that until I eventually ended up meeting up with Mr. Wilbur Smith. And he told me, he said that most of my books were optioned several times. But he said, you know what, Mr. Sanghi? I said, what? He said, I ended up making a ton of more money from the fact that they were optioned so many times. So it's always a challenge for someone to make it into a movie. So I'm quite happy leaving it as that. You know?
Hello, sir.
Hi.
So I want to know, when you write a summary of a story of a particular book, and then you ask for feedback from your new ones and dear ones, does that feedback affect you in any way, whether good or bad?
You've asked me a brilliant question. I think in the early days when you just started out as a writer, it tends to affect you much more. But over a period of time, you develop what is called a thick skin. I remember when the Rosabal line had just been written, one of the first reviews was from a venerable institution which is very well known in the American review world. It's called Purpose. And Purpose wrote, Ashwin Sanghi has written a good book, but it should have been a little shorter. Possibly it should have stopped on page 10. So that was the first time I realized what a vicious review means. And then of course, by the time that the Rosabal line was published in India, the very first review was of the very respected Hindu Literary Review. And as you might be well aware, 9 out of 10 reviews of the Hindu Literary Review are negative. So I was exceptionally worried, and the reviewer had a literary background, which meant that he was going to be looking at it from a literary perspective. And when I saw the review the next day, it said, we do a great disservice to Ashwin Sanghi by comparing him to Dan Brown because he is so much more. And I was like, is he really writing about me? Is that really me? And then Chanakya's Chant came out a year and a half later. And the same Hindu Literary Review went on to say that Chanakya's Chant has all the intellectual caliber of Winnie the Pooh. So, frankly, if you will start getting affected by what the reviewer says, remember one thing, the relationship between the critic and the author is like the relationship between the dog and the lamppost. The lamppost is always going to be peeled. So, 9 out of 10 times, don't base your performance on those reviews, because frankly, when that negative review appeared about Chanakya's chant, my sales in the south went up. So there is no correlation between the two. So to that extent, I would strongly recommend that one of the strong skills that you can develop is developing a rock hard skill, so that people can throw rocks at you and they bounce.
नमस्कार अक्षुत, मैं अनंत विजय बोल रहा हूँ। इधर आपने अभी कहा कि आप हिस्ट्री और मिथ को मिला के मिस्ट्री बनाते हैं, तो इतिहास और मिथक की इस आवाजाही में कभी आपका यथार्थ से मुठभेड़ हुआ है?
देखिए, मेरा ये मानना है कि आप कुछ भी लिखेंगे, भले ही आप मिथ में लिखें, हिस्ट्री में लिखें, कंबाइन करके लिखें या किसी दूसरे एरिया में लिखें, मतभेद तो होगा ही। मुझे याद है जब रोजाबाल लाइन निकला था, तो मुझे याद है कि मैं चेन्नई में कहीं पर टॉक दे रहा था, तो टॉक के बाद एक पादरी मेरे पास आए एंड उन्होंने कहा मुझसे कि बेटा, आई वांट टू ब्लेस यू। सो आई सेड थैंक यू फादर। आई बेंट डाउन अ लिटिल and he said, no, I want to bless you because your soul is damned. Your soul is damned because I had committed blasphemy, ना? तो वहाँ पर because of the fact that I was suddenly saying कि भाई वो it's possible कि वो जो मकबरा है वहाँ पर, वो जो tomb है वहाँ पर, उसमें हो सकता है कि ईसा मसीह वहाँ पर गड़े हुए हैं। तो that unfortunately goes against the context of religion. And मैंने अभी कभी भी सोचा नहीं है कि I am writing about religion. I have always considered myself to be more philosophical than religious. So there is an old proverb which says that philosophy is about questions that may never be answered, and religion is about answers that may never be questioned. And that conflict, वो कुछ भी आप कर लीजिए, वो conflict आएगा। तो जहाँ पर भी आप अपने दिल से लिखेंगे, आपको थोड़ा प्रिपेयर्ड रहना पड़ेगा कि भाई कहीं पर मतभेद आए, कहीं ना कॉन्फ्लिक्ट उसमें आए।
Hi sir.
Hi.
Sir, which is the most difficult book till now which you have written? Like, which book took you a lot of struggle?
I would say it was probably the first one, the Rosabald line. It was also the most difficult and it was also the most easy. I'll tell you why. It was the most difficult because I had no clue of what I was doing. So, in other words, I was writing, the Rosabald line went through 4 rounds of editing because it was written by a novice. On the other hand, the Rosabald line, those who read it and appreciate it, they say, you know, we wish you could go back to writing the way you wrote the Rosabald line, because it was written with total abandon, where you don't have a rule, where you don't have a reputation that you need to protect. In that sense, it makes you that much more free. So I would say कि दोनों जो categories हैं, what is difficult and what is easy, both of those it would be, the answer would be Rosabald.
Hi, my question is that before you wrote your first book, were you always someone who wrote, like maybe just when you had an idea, when you heard a short story from someone, did you always write, or was your first book the first time you attempted something?
I had written, but I had written badly. I mean, in the sense that during my school years at Cathedral School, my teacher used to always tell me that you're at a cathedral, I take it. So we had in those days our English professor was someone called Mr. Elisha, and he would make me write essays, and then he would call me to the front of the class, and he would say, Sanghi, you sprinkle your commas and full stops and semicolons as if they are salt and pepper. They have no head or tail, they have no context. Where do you put your commas? So my writing was always like that. It was never great writing. I think where I came into my own was probably when I went to the US and I was an MBA student, and I had no alternative but to present case analyses plus I started writing for the magazine. But everything that I had written, even during those days, was nothing more than a couple of pages, maybe 1,000 odd words. And then I think where I truly came into my own, and today I'm going to reveal something which I have not revealed ever.
Okay.
A friend of mine in those days was working for a magazine called Cosmopolitan. And she said, you know, we'd like a tongue-in-cheek article about the relationship between men and women. And I said, you know, that sounds fascinating. So I'd like to do it. But I said, listen, you know, if it's an article for Cosmo and it's written on this topic, then it's not going to be Ashwin Sanghi writing, it's going to be Sean Higgins. So I wrote that article and I used that pseudonym for the very first time. And I suddenly realized that I had so much fun writing it because I wasn't trying to be Ashwin Sanghi. I did not have any reputation to protect. It was written with complete abandon. And that's when I realized that I did have that little spark to be able to be creative. And then, of course, the Rosabal line happened a few years after that.
Any more questions, please? Anyone? You've left all the questioning to me. Okay. I have no more questions for Ashwin. Are we on time?
Yeah, very much.
I remember in Pune they had that thing flashing out there. I was trying to ignore it and you were... never mind. So, ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Ashwin, who's been here, entertained us. And I think all of you have been a great crowd, so a huge round of applause to all of you as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashwin.
Thank you, Shatrujit. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you because you make it lively. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was indeed wonderful listening to you. Thank you so much. Listening to you for the second time. Last year also I was here to listen to you. And thank you, Shatrujit. It was a wonderful session. So I would request Smita to please come on stage to felicitate Mr. Shatrujit and Ashwin Sanghi. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. You can share with us.